welcome from the i2i partnership. So thank you so much for coming along this morning and finding out and going through this presentation about finding out a little bit about teaching. Just before we do start, if you have signed up with a name that is not the name that you registered with us with, would you mind just putting a little message on the chat to Chrissy and just letting her know that if you have signed up with a name that is different, what your actual name is, just so that she can just check who's actually here and so on and so forth. You can privately message Chrissy on the chat function just to let her know. So that would be great if we could just do that. That would be brilliant. So welcome. So we're going to spend about 20 minutes this morning finding out a little bit about getting into teaching and what teaching involves and what it's like and how to go about making that decision, and then we're going to have about 20 minutes or so to give you an opportunity to ask us questions and to find out a little bit more. Okay, just so that you know who's online this morning, so I'm Maria. I'm the director of the SCITT at the i2i Teaching Partnership. We're based in Farnham. I'll tell you a little bit about that in a minute. And then we've also got Chrissy, morning, and who is our marketing and recruitment lead for the i2i Teaching Partnership, and she is the lady who you would have contacted through Eventbrite or who set this thing up. Okay, so, and she's a font of all knowledge about the partnership, and she'll be the lady to contact at the end if you have any questions beyond today's session. Okay, so I'm just going to put the timer on just because I know what I'm like. Once I start talking, I don't stop. But yeah, so the first 20 minutes is just going to be a little presentation to you about what we are about and why get into teaching and what the first step should be. So before we start, just a little bit about our partnership. So like I said, we're based in Farnham. We're the i2i Teaching Partnership. We're a SCITT, and I'll tell you a little bit about that in a minute. But basically our partnership is made up of 24 schools. Here they all are. We have one school that is missing off our map, and that is All Hallows, which is also in Farnham. We have two training hubs. We have one based at Weydon School and one based at Reigate School. And basically we're a partnership of local schools that serve the local community. Our mantra is to train local teachers for the local community. Okay, so that's a little bit about the partnership. A little bit about who's who at i2i. Obviously, I'm Maria. I've introduced myself already. We've got Chrissy, who's our marketing and recruitment lead. We're both on this morning. But then we have another three ladies who work for i2i. And we've got Tammy, who's in the middle at the bottom there. She is our admin lead. So once you are on the program, Tammy will kind of sort you out with most things and keeps the program kind of going and does all the admin for it. And then we have two other really important ladies in the partnership who are Liz Wiley, who's our link tutor. So she's the lady who comes in and visits all our trainees in their partner schools, and also does a lot of other things like interviews and liaising with the University of Sussex and so on and so forth. And I'll talk a little bit about that later. And then bottom right hand corner is Michelle. So Michelle's new to the program this year. She's new to our partnership because she is leading our brand new Reigate hub. So like I said earlier, we have two training hubs, one based in Farnham, one based in Reigate, and Michelle leads up the Reigate hub. And we all work really closely to make sure that the program is uniform and you get a good experience in both hubs. Regardless of which hub you train in, you get the same experience. And we work with all our partner schools really, really closely. Okay, so in terms of what we're going to do today, okay, we're going to, we've got a series of questions that we're going to consider. And they're all to do very much with the first steps of getting into teaching. So I'm hoping that if you've signed up to this webinar this morning, it's because you're not really sure whether what teaching's about, you're not really sure whether you want to get into it, and you don't really know how to go about doing it. So just going to give you a really basic introduction to getting into teaching. So some of the questions we're going to think about is why would you want to become a teacher? Okay, I personally think it's the best job in the world, and I'll tell you a little bit about that in a moment. But why become a teacher? What's the point? Why do so many people become teachers? Second question is about how are you going to know if it's for you? Okay, so it's definitely something I wanted to do when I was 22, but it's not for everyone. And how do you find out if it's for you or not? Okay, because that's a really important thing to do. Third question we're going to look at is how can you qualify? What are the different routes into teaching? Teaching is I would say, unfortunately, there are lots and lots of different routes into teaching. And I say unfortunately because it means that you really need to do your research before you apply somewhere. But hopefully we'll give you an introduction today so that you can, if you're starting your research, it won't be so much of a kind of quagmire of confusion. And then we're going to think about why train with i2i. Okay, so, you know, why train with us as a partnership? What's special about us? What can we offer? What's different about us to other partnerships? And then we're going to think about what qualifications do you need, and then what qualifications do you end up with at the end of the programme. And then we're going to do a very general introduction into funding options and then how to apply. Okay, those two topics will be covered in a lot more detail in the second webinar. So if you haven't signed up to the second webinar and you want to find out a bit more about funding and how to apply, you still have time to do that. So you can do that on Eventbrite during the course of this hour. Okay, if you want to then find out a bit more about funding and how to apply. And then we're going to finish with next steps. Okay, so we're going to run through that today. If you do have questions, could I ask that you hold on to them until the end of the presentation, and then at the end we'll have an opportunity for you to ask questions on the chat, and then we can go through them, and they'll probably be relevant for everybody, so you can hang on to that and actually listen to what we have to say. So the first question is about, is teaching for me and why did I get into it? Okay, so so Chrissy, would you mind just moving on to the next slide? Is that okay? Okay, so is teaching for me and why did I get into it and what are the kind of perks and the benefits? So there are several reasons why people become teachers, okay, and I just wanted to kind of share with you some of my reasons and my experiences, okay. Teaching is a real people job, okay, so if you love being around people all day, every day, okay, teaching is gonna, you're probably gonna love teaching, okay. I can't imagine doing a job which is office-based, where I don't see people. Lockdown for me was really hard because I wasn't in a school, okay, and you know, speaking to children over online isn't the same. So when you're in that classroom and you get that buzz and you see those children learn and you see them listening to you and you have interactions with them, okay, that's where you know, I really come alive. And I would say if you ask most teachers, that's what they would say. It's that interaction with children every day and knowing that because of you, they're growing and developing and they leave your classroom knowing more than they did before, okay, and that is because of you, all right, and you are contributing to their learning and you're contributing to them growing up as amazing individuals who go on and influence our world, okay. So it's about what goes on in the classroom, but it's not just about the generic what goes on in the classroom, it's also about the individuals, okay. There will be children that you influence that stay with you for a lifetime, okay, that you have such a profound impact on that you know, you will and that they will have been profoundly impacted by you, that they will go on and do things that is because of what you did for them in school, okay. I still remember children that I taught 17 years ago when I first started teaching, okay. I still remember their names, I still remember what they were like, and I keep in touch with a lot of them because now some of them have gone on and done degrees, some of them have gone on and, you know, they're kind of like in really important jobs, or they've gone on and had families, and knowing that I've been a part of that, okay, and knowing that I've contributed to them growing up and becoming those individuals is an amazing feeling, okay. Christy, are you okay to move on? Okay. But it's and it's not just the classroom, and it's not just what goes on in school. Okay, one of the amazing things about teaching is what happens beyond the classroom. Okay, so yes, a lot of your time is spent in school, and it's spent teaching your subject, which you love, and seeing these children grow and become amazing individuals. But so much of school is about what they do outside of your subject and outside of the school walls. So things like getting involved in the school plays, going on trips, taking them on residentials. Okay, those experiences are so important for children. Okay, and yes, they may do them with their families, but a lot of the time, okay, they will have a very, very different experience when they do it with you as a school. Okay, and also a lot of the time you'll be taking children away that maybe have never gone away before. Okay, and that's really, really special. You've just got some images there of some of the things that I've been involved in, that my colleagues have been involved in. Okay, so being part of the productions is an amazing experience. Taking them away on residentials where you physically see them grow and mature and develop through that period of time that they're there is amazing. I'm a history teacher by trade. I qualified 17, 18 years ago. I've been teaching for nearly 17 years. And the number of trips I've done where I've taken children to Berlin and to Moscow and to New York, and I've made my history come alive. And one of the things that those students will say to me is that, "Miss, you've given me memories for life. I will never, ever forget this." And that is an amazing privilege to have. Okay, that feeling of inspiring lifelong love of learning. Okay, I've got children that have gone and done GCSE history, then gone and done A-level history, and then have gone and done a degree, and have written to me and said, "Miss, it's because of you. I'm now I'm doing a history degree because you inspired me in year 7 or year 8 or year 9." And that is an amazing feeling. That is an amazing privilege to know that you've had that impact on children. Okay, but it's more than that as well. Okay, so lots of teachers go on and take on other responsibilities in school. Chrissy, are you okay that's it. So if you're thinking about, okay, so it's great being in the classroom, it's great doing all this extracurricular, but can I get a career out of it? Is that enough for me to make a career out of it? And so I just wanted to share with you some of the different routes that teaching can take you, or that you can take in teaching to allow you to develop and progress your career. When I first started, I was a classroom teacher. I was a classroom teacher for quite a few years. But then I rapidly took on promotion and took on different experiences through my career, not because I didn't enjoy my classroom teaching, but because I wanted to have a bigger influence. Because that's the thing when you're a teacher, you have an influence over your class, you have an influence over lots and lots of classes, but then you also have that opportunity to influence a wider number of people. And if you're passionate about what you believe, and you're passionate about teaching and your vision for teaching, there are loads of opportunities. Okay, so some of the opportunities are on this slide. So, classroom teacher, but then if you're passionate about growing other adults, okay, you might become a mentor or a coach, or even a head of department, where you're passionate about growing your colleagues, but also you're really passionate about your subject and how it's taught. Okay. If you're then passionate about seeing how your subject is viewed across the school and how similar subjects can work together, you might become a head of faculty. Okay, if you're passionate about your subject and how it's examined, you could become an exam moderator. Okay, so those are all different options about, how could you get more involved in your subject, but how could you also lead adults. On the other side, okay, we've got roles such as head of year or assistant head of year, and that's for those people who are really, really passionate about children. Okay, not that not all teachers are, but they're passionate about their welfare, and they really want to kind of take that pastoral role. Okay, they want to really get stuck in with their families. They want to see them grow in their extracurricular. And a lot of teachers who are really passionate about that go down the head of year or the assistant head of year role. Okay. Then beyond that, okay, if you then think, oh, I want to have a bigger influence in the school because I've learned so much, I have a real passion for my subject or for children or for how education should kind of work, then there are opportunities for whole school responsibility, okay? Things like assistant head, deputy head, senior leadership, okay, head teacher, all those sorts of roles, okay, are open to teachers. And it's about kind of gaining that experience and having a passion for what you know and do, and then developing your expertise and developing your professional behaviours in order to work towards that. I am now running a SCITT, so obviously I started as a classroom teacher, and I now have a responsibility for training the next generation of teachers. And I'm really, I feel really privileged to be in that position because, for a lot of my career, I watched children grow and I watched them develop and, reach for their, and kind of achieve their potential. And now I'm doing the same, but I'm doing it with novice teachers and trainee teachers. And it's so wonderful to know that you take somebody on an interview who might not have any real understanding of what teaching's about, and you kind of take a bit of a gamble on them, and then a year later they've learned so much, and then you see them work in a school and they're teaching classes on their own, and that is a real privilege, knowing that actually the future generation of children are taken care of because we've got new teachers. Okay, so it's a really complex and multifaceted career. Okay, you're not just bound to the classroom, but there's lots of opportunities there where teaching can take you. So if you're thinking, could I make a career out of it? Absolutely. Just going to talk a little bit now about whether teaching is for you, okay, and how do you know if teaching is for you? Now, the first thing I would say is that public perception of teachers and the reality of teaching are very, very different, okay? So I would say if I was an outsider looking at the public perception of teaching, there's either two things, okay? There's either the group of people that think, oh my goodness, it's awful. Why on earth would you want to work with teenagers every day? Because they're awful. Or there's the other side of, oh, well, teachers don't do anything. They clock on at 9, go home at 3:30, easy life. Neither of those two public perceptions are correct, okay? And I would say that you can't get further from the truth, okay? That those two views of teaching are totally incorrect. Teaching is amazing, okay, because you get to work with teenagers and you get to work with young adults, all right? Yes, they're difficult, okay? Sometimes they can be, okay, not particularly pleasant. But actually, the times when they're like that is an absolute, minutiae of your time as a teacher. Okay, but the vast majority of time that you spend with young people is amazing. Okay, because they are thirsty for knowledge, they want to learn, and they're just going through that growing process, and you are there as the mature adult and as the professional to steer them in the right direction. Okay, and it is a real privilege. All right, it is a real privilege. That public perception of the fact that all teenagers are awful is totally incorrect. I mean, this is my third school I've worked in. I did 2 placements in my training year, and I've come across difficult children, but I would say the best part of my job is working with children because they're brilliant. They are hilarious a lot of the time, and just the fact that actually they really respect you and they really trust you is enough to kind of get over all those kind of little incidences where you do have difficult children. The other side, the other public perception about the fact that it's an easy ride and it starts at 9 to go home at 3:30 is totally incorrect. It is hard work, okay? I'm not going to shy away from it. It is really, really hard work, especially when you start, okay? Because you are starting something that is so complex, that's really multifaceted, like I said earlier. And it's also hard because you're dealing with individuals that are growing up, that don't always have the emotional maturity that they should, and that are going through that adolescent period where, you know, one day they're fine, the next day they're in a mood. Okay, and having the emotional intelligence to deal with that makes it quite hard. Okay, it makes it rewarding, okay, but it is a challenge. So it is hard work, okay, but actually it's amazingly rewarding. And children and young people are amazing people to work with. No 2 days in teaching is ever the same, okay? But actually, how do you find out if it's for you? Okay, there are a couple of things that I would strongly recommend that you do before you embark on a career in teaching. The first one would be doing some school experience. Now, I know at the moment it's really difficult to get into schools because of the situation that we're in. Do contact providers, do contact us, because we do have 1 or 2 schools that are accepting school experience. If schools are not accepting school experience, though, we are, particularly at i2i, we're putting together something that will allow you to gain that experience without actually stepping into school. So we're putting together some webinars or some opportunities for you to speak to teachers who are currently teaching about their experience in schools and what it's actually like, okay? Following on from that, another way to find out if teaching is for me is tap into teachers that you may know, okay? Find out from them, what is it actually like? Talk to them, okay? And kind of get a feel for, does teaching fit my life? Okay, have I got the right mindset? Have I got the skills to be able to embark on this? Okay. And finally, there's loads out there on the web about teaching. A lot of it isn't right or isn't truthful, but there are some amazing blogs about teaching and about the benefits of teaching and the amazing experiences that teaching can bring. Okay, so do your research to find out if teaching is for you. Okay, because the worst thing that you could do is kind of apply for something and then realise midway through that I'm not sure if this is for me. Okay, so to really kind of work out if teaching is the right career for you. Okay, Chrissy, are you okay to move on? Just going to talk briefly now about the different roads, the different routes that you can take to qualify. Okay, so we've got 2 broad routes. We've got a school-led route and a university-led route. So if you do a qualification through university, you will normally apply through to a university, and usually these programs are campus-based. So that means you would need to go to the university, you do quite a lot of training at the university, and then you would do block placements in schools. A school-led route is different, and it was set up mainly for those people who had jobs before and kind of felt a bit weird going back to university, but also now it's really popular with graduates as well. And the whole kind of premise of a school-led route is that you are in school from day one. Yes, you do come out and you do some theory, but you are predominantly in school from day one. So you become part and parcel of the school, of your placement from day one. Okay, so that's just a little bit of background in terms of the 2 different routes that you can choose. So it will really depend on what you're like and what you want to get out of it to decide which route to go down. Now, obviously, we're a school-led provider, okay, and these are some of the benefits of why I believe that school-led is best. And just in terms of, you know, I know I've got a bit of a bias view, but I did a university-led route when I trained, because that was the only route available many moons ago. And I look back to what I did and what I experienced, and I now put it into context of what I do with my trainees and what my trainees experience. And if I could turn back the clock, I would have definitely done a school-led route, because teaching is a practical subject. It's it's one of those subjects you need to learn hands-on. Okay, you can't learn to teach in an auditorium. You've got to see it in action. And the more time you spend in schools, the better it is, which is why the school-led route is probably the way to go. Okay, so those are just some of the benefits that we believe that school-led provides. Chrissy, you okay to? Okay. Just a little bit about why i2i and why train with us. So we've popped up there some quotes from some of our trainees in the last year. You know, an amazing bunch of people that have gone on and got jobs and are now having an impact in schools across the county. But there's just a couple of key words there that I wanted to pick out. So, you know, we're a local provider. We're based in Farnham and in Reigate. We provide teachers for the local community, but in terms of our actual programme, some of these words are really important. So the idea that actually we allow people to develop and grow in their training. You know, the first quote there saying that I've developed and grown more in 1 year than I ever thought I could. Okay. Teacher training is a difficult year, but actually the growth that you see in that year is amazing, okay? And it really equips you for the NQT year and for your future career. We have a really high reputation, okay? Everyone you speak to, all our partner schools that you speak to, people that have trained with us in the past will speak really highly of i2i. And this idea of, you know, first-class tuition, positivity, enthusiasm of the team. You know, I love my job. I love teaching. The colleagues I work with, okay, the teachers I work with love their job. And you need to be around people like that if you're embarking on a teacher training course. The relentless passion that we have for teaching, okay, I strongly believe it's a profession and we need to keep it like that, and we need to make sure that we train the next generation of teachers. It's a real passion of mine, and that really comes across in the programme. We have really high standards, okay, and we have to have high standards because children's education is on the line. I need to make sure the teachers I train will do those children a good service, that they end up finishing their education with good qualifications. That is my main priority. But having said all of that, it's the support, okay? We're not a university, okay? You won't be in a cohort of 300 people. You'll be in a cohort of 40, 50, 55 people. That is small enough to feel like a little bubble, and that we can get round and support everybody individually, okay? And that quote is really important to us. The care and the support that we have for our trainees is really, really important. Okay. Chrissy, I think it's over to you now.
Thank you so much, Maria. I'm a little bit conscious of time, so I am going to whiz through the slides now. And I think, as Maria said at the beginning, you know, the next webinar does go into quite a bit more detail on the funding and the application process. So if you haven't booked for that one and you want to, there is still time. But very quickly, I just wanted to talk you through what you need to actually access a teacher training programme and what you're going to end up with at the end of your training year. So to actually be eligible for a teacher training programme, you must have a degree, and ideally that degree needs to be of A22 or above. Sitting alongside that, you do need both your English and maths at GCSE level or equivalent. So that's grade 4 in new money, grade C in old money. And if you undertook your education overseas, you can get in contact with an organisation called NARIC, who are the National Recognition Information Centre for the UK, and they will be able to provide you with a statement of comparability that proves that your overseas qualifications meet the UK requirements. It's also worth noting at this point that we will need to see all your original certificates. So if they're buried in your loft somewhere, or perhaps you don't have them anymore, start the process now of requesting copies, because you won't be able to get and start your course until those certificates have been evidenced. So those are the kind of key things to be aware of when you're applying. At the other end, you're going to come out with two things. You're going to come out with your qualified teacher status, and that's what you need to teach in the UK, and that is accredited by us as a SCITT. But alongside that, you can also study and get your postgraduate certificate in education. We are affiliated with the University of Sussex, so they accredit the PGCE for us. You don't need your PGCE to teach in the UK, but we strongly recommend everyone studies for it if they can. If you're thinking of perhaps you'd like to teach abroad or even up in Scotland, you will need your PGCE. So to us, both elements are very, very important. That just gives you a little flavour of what goes in and what comes out. Funding is a question we get asked about a lot of the time. So a very quick overview here on the options that you have for funding. There are 3 types of funding available for trainee teachers, and depending on your own circumstances, you may be eligible for all 3. One of the main ones is the tuition fee loan. So that covers the programme fees of £9,250, and it isn't means tested. So you can apply for it as soon as you've got your place, you can apply for it, and the student loans company will operate and manage that for you. Or you can privately fund your tuition fees, depending again on your personal circumstances. The other areas of financial support available tend to focus more on your living and training costs. So as well as the tuition fee loan, you can apply for what's called a maintenance loan. And that is means tested, unlike the tuition fee loan. And again, is dealt with through the student loans company, and will very much depend upon your individual circumstances. The government do have a really good student finance calculator online. So if you want to look into that a little bit more, just search online and you will be able to find that. There's also some extra financial support that could be available to you. For example, if you have an adult dependent or a child dependent, there are various grants that you can access just to give you a little bit of extra support. And then sat alongside those are the teacher training bursaries and scholarships. Now, these are dependent on the subject that you're looking to train to teach, and also dependent upon your highest academic qualification. Not all subjects receive a bursary, and the scholarship is linked to your professional body of those subjects. To find out more, have a look on our website, have a look on the DfE website, go onto your subject's professional bodies and they'll tell you more about the scholarships. But those are just the key ways in which you can fund your year. And like I say, the next webinar is going to just dig a little bit deeper into those. To qualify for that funding, there are a few key things to be aware of. You need to be a UK national, and if not, you need to have settled status in the UK, and you need to be living in the UK for the past 3 years. The 2 top things on the right I've already touched on, so we won't go over those again. And just if you have got any other form of previous teaching qualification, you won't be eligible for the funding. Okay, so how do you apply? Again, I'm going to whiz through this very, very quickly, but essentially there are 2 ways now for you to apply. You apply online through UCAS or through the government's new digital service, which has been launched this year, which is called DfE Apply. You can apply either way. If you're thinking of a delay of not applying this year and applying the following year, it will all be done through DfE Apply. UCAS will no longer be an option for you. The application cycle is now open. And the most important part of your application form is your personal statement. So just put a few key pointers up there on the screen as to the areas that you need to cover in your personal statement. It is your opportunity to stand out from the crowd in your application, the personal statement. So I can't really stress enough how important that is, that you spend some really considered time, get somebody else to read it, check it for you, and just make sure it really does make your application stand out. From a practical perspective, you will need 2 references. These need to be professional, or if you've been in full-time education within the last 4 or 5 years, one of those would need to be an academic reference. Do be aware that we won't receive your application until your referees have completed their sections. So you just might need to prepare them for that and give them a nudge if they're not responding as quickly as you would like them to. There's codes that you have to put in on your application, both the provider codes and the subject codes. Those are accessible on your provider websites, and also on the government teacher training listings lists all the subject codes that you need. The application cycle does remain open for next September until next summer, but we encourage everybody where possible to apply as early as they can. We as a provider allocate our placement schools on a termly basis. So this means that the later you apply, the fewer placement schools are going to be available to you. And the other thing to think about in that is as soon as you secure an offer, the sooner you do that, the more time you're going to have to do your preparation for your teacher training year, to undertake any subject knowledge enhancement courses that you may need to go on, and just to generally fully prepare yourself at the start of the programme so you get absolutely the most out of your year as you possibly can. Okay. So just to finish, we just wanted to give you a couple of next steps to consider. First being very much decide whether teaching is for you. Hopefully what you've heard today has inspired you, but there's a few little tips up there on screen of things to do just to really help you make that decision. And I'll just draw attention to the Day in the Life of a Teacher webinars that we're in the process of setting up, just to help those people who can't physically get any school experience actually face-to-face in a school. And then decide which training route and which provider is right for you. Do your research. That's really, really important. And if you would like to find out a little bit more about training with us, you can have a look online at our website, or just get in touch with me after the webinar, and we can talk you through in a little bit more detail the things that you need to do. Okay, there's my contact details up on the screen now, so please don't hesitate to get in touch. And I think now we've probably just got enough time to run through any questions that anybody may have.